Good evening everyone and welcome to SoccerMod. In today's video we are going back to the Compdata. Remember in our previous video we added two national teams. We added Brazil and we added Switzerland, but we still need to get those into our World Cup, and we want to make a bit of a change to the World Cup, which I explained in the previous video. At the moment the World Cup in the game has 6 groups of 4 teams, which is not that authentic. What I decided to do was to increase it to a 32 team tournament. I would have 24 teams from UEFA split into 3 pots of 8 teams, and then a rest of the world pot with 8 teams in it, so that when I had a draw for the first round I would get 8 groups, and each group would have 3 European teams in, and then 1 from the rest of the world. Now that's temporary. I'm going to change that again later on, but for now, that's what I want to do. Okay? And I would suggest that you get it to 32 teams and working before trying to expand it any further. Okay? A little bit at a time is the way I would go, rather than trying to expand it up to 64 teams or have a qualification and everything like that. We can do that later, but for now we want to make it work with 32. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, and you can see over here, I've done it on tasks as well, I've put a bit of working out. Now you can do that if you want, it's not necessary. I'm going to delete it later, but it's just to help me see what is happening. Okay, if you go to comp object, I've also added a little bit of working out here to say what I want to use the pots for. So currently there is a setup stage here for the World Cup. So this tournament is the World Cup. It has a setup stage, and there are 5 groups in this setup stage of teams, and I'm going to change it so that there are 4. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to make one pot where I put 8 European teams, another one where I put another 8 European teams, another one where I put another 8 European teams, and then this one's going to be my rest of the world pot. Okay, so I'm no longer going to need these 2 setup stages, because the game uses these to move the teams around in a way so that you don't get a group full of European teams and things like that. I don't sort of need that anymore because of the way I'm going to set the World Cup up. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete all of those setup stages below. I'm just going to keep this one single setup stage at the top. And I'm going to also remove this group 5 here, okay, because I only want 4 different pots. And I'm going to use this setup stage as the draw for my tournament. Okay, I'm going to select this first column and just drag it down so that everything stays in order there, and that updates everything else in this table and all of the others. And the first thing I want to do is to fill these pots up the way that I want. Okay, so if I go to tasks, and now see you've got things like this reference here to fix. We will ignore that for now. There are 30 tasks here which are filled with team, and it tells the teams where they go. We've got an extra 2 teams, so I'm going to put insert. There we go. And I'm going to say start and fill with team, exactly the same as it is above. First column, we are using the World Cup, so it's 1 in the comp obj file here. It's this tournament. This is the pot that they go into. Now I'm going to be changing that, so I can get rid of that, and this as well. I can get rid of that because I don't need that anymore. Okay, this column here is the team ID. So it's the team ID that represents these countries here. So I can put 00 because that last column is ignored when you do a fill with team. And the two teams that I created were Brazil and Switzerland. So Brazil and Switzerland. So that's another team for UEFA and another team for CONMEBOL. I'm just going to put this over here so I can see what's going on. You don't need to worry about this, but this is just notes for me so I understand what's happening. So I need the IDs for the Brazil and the Swiss teams that we created. Well, they're here. That's Brazil and that's Switzerland. So I'll copy these and put them in there. So now I've got the team ID for Brazil and the team ID for Switzerland. Okay. This first column is telling me which pot I need to put these teams into. And I know that I'm going to have a pot of rest of the world team. Okay. So this 6 here, this CompObj reference of 6, I need to fill with rest of the world teams. So I'm going to go into tasks, and for these I'm going to put in this first column 6. Okay. And Argentina and Brazil are also a 6. They all go into the rest of the world. I've also got some other pots for Europe that I need to fill. So 3, I've got to fill this with 8 teams. So I know everybody else is from Europe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 4, I need to fill with another 8 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pot 5 I need to fill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Switzerland the 8th team. Okay. This next column here, we need to tell it which position in the pot it is going into. So for the rest of the world, it's going to have 8 slots. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't the USA remember, and then Argentina are going to be the 7th team, Brazil are going to be the 8th team. You can obviously, if it's easier for you, move them up to here. Makes no difference. You can put the Argentina and Brazil team up there, so that you can see it easy running 1 down to 8. Pot 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fill it with 8 teams. We've got Denmark in slot 1 of pot 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the same for that 5th pot. Okay. So we're now filling the teams correctly. We know that works. I can clear these notes. I don't need them anymore. I'm actually going to leave them there just because it's going to be easier when I come back to this later on and expand it even further. The next thing I want to do is go to standings. Now, if we scroll up to the top in standings, you are now going to see a lot of references to things that don't exist anymore. So all of these here. Okay. So the first thing you can do is select all of these and just get rid of them. Okay. Just delete them. We don't need them anymore. We're not using them. Okay. And I'm going to highlight this in yellow just so I can see what I'm working with. Okay. Now if I go back here to CompObj, remember I've got 4 groups and I've filled these with 8 teams each. So in standings, I need to make a change here. This is completely different to what is here, so I'm just going to get rid of these lines here that currently exist. I'm going to give myself a few extra lines because I know there's 32 teams I need to move, so I'm going to need that 32 lines. Okay. And each of these pots, so if I go here, the first pot is Compdata reference 3. Okay. So in standings I'm going to need to use 3, but I will do it as a calculation. You should always do that as a calculation to the Compdata file. And in this column, you want from 0 down to 7 to represent 8 slots in that pot. Each pot has 8 slots, so I've just copied and pasted that. And for this, I'm going to copy it down. So that's got 8 slots. If you scroll down there, that'll update this one to 4, which is the next pot down. Scroll it down again, so you have 5. Make sure there are always calculations, because when you come to update things later on, it'll mess it up if you've just written it in hard code. There we go. So we've now got the correct standings there, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. What we can do next is go to settings. Now, settings, we've got these two reference here. They no longer exist, so we can get rid of those. There is nothing else we need to do there for now. We can go to, we don't have to change anything in schedule or objectives or inner teams or comp IDs. We need to change advancement. And advancement's going to be a little strange because we haven't got enough information yet. So we will leave this bit for now. And we're going to go back to Compdata and we're going to take a look at the tournament itself. So you'll notice here there are 6 groups. We want to increase this to 8. Okay. And this stage here is it's a setup stage, and it references the teams who finish in 3rd place in these groups, and it puts them into order of how many points they got. So it puts them in like an order to say who were the best 3rd place teams. We don't need that because we're going for an 8 group system. So I'm going to get rid of these lines here. To make it easy, I'm just going to get rid of them by clearing them. And I'm going to copy these down. So I'm going to give this one FCE underscore group underscore G. And this here is a language string, so this is going to show it as group G. Remember how we changed language strings in the previous video? Those will be picked up. These are already in the game, so you don't need to worry. They're owned by this group stage here. So we're just going to copy this because it's the same value. This should update. So when you go down, you'll get group 7 and group 8. That represents these two. You can put these in hard-coded, 5 and 5. Just write 5. You don't need to do any calculation there. And this column here, just drag it down and double-click to update everything so that stays in order and is sequential. So we now have 8 groups. I'm just going to highlight these 2 groups to say this is the ones that we are working on. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is go into settings. Okay. Now you'll notice the settings for, so we're looking at between line 7 and 15. Okay. Between 7 and 15. There. We need to change this. Okay. So 14 and 15 are the lines that we changed. Okay. So these settings are no longer relevant to us. Okay. So we're just going to clear them. And we're going to copy this line because this represents a group. Okay. So if you look at 13, 13 was group F. We need to add a new line for group G and group H, which is the same. So we've done that there. each team will play each other once. Okay, and then with these extra lines you can just get rid of that. Okay, we now need to go to standings. Okay, now standings, we can get rid of these lines for 15 because that was representing the teams that finished in 3rd place as it was previously set up. We've now got 2 groups extra with 4 teams in. So this one is Group F as it was. We're making Group G and Group H, so we create 2 new groups. This is a Compdata reference to this line here, Group G, is the one we created. And it has 4 teams in it. We do one for 15 as well, Group H. It has 4 teams in it. Okay. So we've made the changes there. We don't need to do anything else in settings or Compdata. That's all set. We can go to schedule now. Okay, and if we go up to the top where the World Cup schedule is, you'll be able to see here it's got all the group games all separated out. Now, to save time, it's not going to be quite right just yet, but if we copy this one here, just to make it nice and easy, and we copy it twice, okay. And what we will do is just give it the same schedule as Group F. So 13, remember, is Group F in Compdata. Okay, we're going to give 14 and 15 the same schedule for the time being, and later on we will go in and make it nicer so it actually reflects what a World Cup schedule would look like. But for now, we're just testing that this works. So both of those groups get this schedule. So these are the lines that we've added here. The objectives for this, I'm just going to double check. Yeah, they're not required because they're picked up by international, so we don't need to add any objectives in there for now. Compdata, we've added the 2 groups we want. We've done the settings and the standings. We've added the tasks. We're now looking at advancement. Okay, so the advancement's going to be a lot different to what it was previously. Okay, now I'm just looking into this here. So 15, this one straight away, this is the 3rd place teams as it was. So these immediately, we don't need these anymore, so I'm just going to clear those out. I'm not going to delete them from here because I want to save the lines to give myself some space to work with. And I think the easiest thing is if we clear all of these references, because we are completely changing how this tournament is going to work. Okay. So remember, from when we've done this on Compdata in the past, let's have a look. Go up to the top here. We are wanting to advance teams from this setup stage here into these groups. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. If we go into advancement, and I've got a gap here now, meaning I can move these teams correctly. Okay. So I'm going to put equals, and actually what we will do, sorry to confuse you there, this column here is the one that needs to be in order. Okay, so this is the easiest one to start working on. So I'm going to put equals, and I'm going to put this group here. Now each of these groups needs 4 teams in it. Okay, so if I copy that down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I say that the first team, second team, third team, fourth team. So there's 4 teams in each group that we need. And we've got 8 groups, so I'm just going to make sure that there are 8 lots of that. And if I drag that down, I'll get the next group. It's going to be Group B. Drag that down. And just to show you, if we got equals, this is obviously Group D here. And I'm giving each of them 4 teams. Okay. Now, I need to take them from these groups here. And I want 1 from each pot to go into the groups. Okay. So the first one is 3. So I'm going to say from pot 3, pick a random team. So a random team is 0. Okay. And it will put it into there. I want a team from pot 4. This second pot, which is Compdata reference 4. Same for 5 and same for 6. So that's all of the pots there. Okay. I'll do this quickly and just copy that top pot 3. Drag it down 4 lines. Drag it down 4 lines. And that quickly gives you all of those pots. And it's going to randomly pick a team from each of those pots and put it into the groups like they are there. Okay. Now this here is saying that from 8, the team in second, let's have a look at this. Okay, this is filling the round of 16 with teams based on how they've performed in the groups. Now we've made changes so this 15 no longer exists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify which of these here, these lines here, are round of 16 games. Well, it's 17 to 24 that I'm looking for. So here, and I'm going to just get rid of these here. Okay. I'm going to clear all of these lines up here. So we're making a lot of space in this advancement table by making an alteration. Okay. There we go. And instead of how it was previously, we are going to say that the team that finishes in first or in second in each group will go into these matches. Okay, so if I say for this first game here, for example, game 1, I want the winner of Group A and the team that finished second in Group B to be in that match. Okay, so the way that this would be represented is you put equals to do a calculation in that first column. You would select the group 8 and you say the team that finished in first. Okay. For this one, you would say equals. You would select the second group here, which is Compdata reference 9, and you say the team that finished in second. Okay, and that will fill that game. Now, we want the same for the 5th match down. Now, one thing to be aware of is the quarterfinals. It's going to advance in a certain way, so you need to look at the quarterfinals and how they advance. So this is saying that the team that finishes in first in that 17 game will play the team that finishes in first in that 18 game. So we want to avoid putting the teams from Group A and Group B in that 18 group. in that 18 game. Otherwise, they're going to qualify from the group and they're going to play each other almost automatically, almost straight away. So this 5th game down will avoid them playing each other again until the final. So we can put them in there. So if we go down to the 5th game, which is Compdata reference 21, okay, we want to do the same this time. So for the Compdata reference 8, which was Group A, here, this time, instead of the first team, we want the team that finished in 2nd. And we want the same, we want Group B, but we want the team that finished in 1st. Okay. The next one, we want Group C, the team that finished in 1st. And we want Group D, the team that finished in 2nd. Now you can make this easy for yourself by doing this. It's a quick trick. We've worked out the 1st versus 2nd in the different groups, so we just copy this and paste it in again. And then this, similarly, it's the opposite way around. So we put it like that. Okay. And then if you drag this down, you've got everything from 8 to 15 automatically in there. Okay. Makes sense. From Group A to Group H, you've got a team from each of those. And you do the same that. Yeah, there we go. You do the same here, and you've got the opposite. So those matches are now all filled with, depending on how the teams finish there. Now, one thing that you will need to do is just check that you haven't got any empty references anywhere. It's always good to check. Just do a Control F and search for ref exclamation mark. We haven't, so it looks like we've changed everything successfully. Okay. One other trick, because we're going to need to test this in the game, and it's going to be annoying because the World Cup doesn't usually start until 2026. So can you imagine, if you want to test it, we're going to have to sim all the way through to 2026 just to see if the World Cup works. I don't like the idea of doing that. So you can go to settings, and if you go up to the top, you'll see when you scroll down this line here, schedule year start in reference to 1. So 1 in Compdata, which is the World Cup. We can change that to 2024, and that's going to make sure it starts in 2024 rather than 2026. Now if you do that, you need to be aware that the European Championship will also kick off in the same year, which we don't want, because then they're going to collide with each other. So we need to find the European Championship, which is this one here, 38. Change that to 2026, and that'll just mean that that doesn't collide with it. Now we can come back and change these values back later once we're happy that everything's working, and then we can test it by simming all the way through to 2026 to make sure it works in the actual year as well. Okay, so I'll go into the game and I'll start a career. Don't forget to copy all of these tables, same as we normally do, into Notepad++ and then import them into your game. I won't do that on the screen to save time because it's completely unnecessary and it's going to waste a lot of time, but you need to do that for all of these tables, even if you haven't edited them directly. For example, weather, because the references have all changed when you've made changes to these. Okay, so do that and I'll show you what it looks like in game. Okay, so one other thing that I did miss, just make sure you don't miss it either, is interqual, the qualification for the Euros. This schedule year start, I've had to change that to 2024 as well. But after I've made that change, there is also something you need to do in schedule, and it's to make sure that the new national teams that you've put into the game able to play friendlies. Now if you go down to the bottom of the schedule, for international friendlies, I've highlighted them in blue, the changes that I've made. You will see matches for 1, 8, 3, 4. Now all I've done here is there was another few games with 15 on. So what that's saying is that there will be 15 matches. Now to add the new teams to the game, you'll have to change those values to 16, and you will have to change any of the values that say 30 to 32 to incorporate the 2 new teams. Okay, so that the ones that say 32 on here, they'll say 30 on yours at the moment, and you'll need to change them to 32. They need to reflect the number of teams in the international pool that you've got in the international teams, and the 15 or 16, that needs to be the number of teams that you've got divided by 2. Now I've removed the ones that were 16 and I've changed it so all of mine are 32s. The reason I've done that is just to free up some space in my schedule, because it'll come in useful later if I've cut out unnecessary rows. So all my friendlies are going to take place on the same date. Okay, so we're going to go into the game now. I'm going to show you that the World Cup is now working. So here we go. I've got groups A through to H. Each has 3 European teams and 1 rest of the world team. The scores on the fixtures on the side there reflect the group, and they're all played. So I can advance this now. I'll just advance through the career. What I'll do, it just allows you to test that everything's working. I'm just going to sim it through to the end of the month and make sure that the knockout rounds are played. Okay. And if I go back and check the Men's International Cup again, I can see that the matches are taking place. It doesn't finish until the 2nd of July, so I've got to sim it a bit further. So I'll do that and I'll come back afterwards. Okay, and just to show you, I've simmed it through to the next season, moved on a bit. All these groups have continued there, and if I move through the round of 16, the matches have taken place, quarterfinals, semi-finals. It runs through the tournament. I'm happy that that's working now. So if we go back to the Compdata, a couple of things that you'd be able to do is to change the schedule so that it actually suits the World Cup mode a bit better. Because here we go, 14 and 15, we just sort of gave them the same dates as these ones. I'll show you how to do that on another video. Otherwise this will go on way too long. So you can change that if you know what you're doing. Settings, remember to change these things back, so it's 2022, and on the Interqual and the Intercup, change that to 2024, and change the World Cup back to 2026, or have it set up however you want. You know, you can keep it as those years. I think that'll do for now. I'll show you how to fix the schedule and a couple of ideas on how to do scheduling on the next video, and I think we'll also do something on the European competition, because it'd be nice if that worked as well. Okay, well, thanks for joining, and see you next time.